The news spread like wildfire through the bustling corridors of Fleet Command. Admiral John Steelheart, a grizzled veteran with decades of distinguished service, was summoned urgently to the office of the Supreme Fleet Commander. "Admiral, we've just received an encoded transmission from one of our outermost scout ships." The commander's face was grave. "They've discovered something incredible." Steelheart stood at attention, his mind racing. "What is it, sir?" "The Lost Fleet, Admiral. They've found the Lost Fleet." For a long moment, Steelheart was silent, the weight of those words sinking in. The Lost Fleet, humanity's most advanced starships, crewed by their finest captains and engineers, vanished without a trace centuries ago on the edge of explored space. Their disappearance had become the stuff of legend, sparking countless theories and dashed expeditions. And now, after all this time, where? Steelheart demanded. "Where are they?" The commander grimaced. "Deep in the Tartarus Nebula, over 500 light-years from our furthest outposts. The scout ship barely made it back before its engines gave out." Steelheart's jaw tightened. The Tartarus Nebula, a vast, uncharted region of space, shrouded in impenetrable clouds of cosmic dust and radiation. For decades, it had been humanity's great unknown, a wall of mystery that no ship had breached and returned. Until now. "We need to assemble a recovery fleet immediately. Whatever happened to them, we have to get those ships and their crews back home." The commander nodded solemnly. "That's why you're here, John. You're the only one with the experience and the stomach for a mission like this. We're putting you in command." Steelheart felt a familiar fire ignite within him. For years, he had ached to uncover the fate of the Lost Fleet, to bring closure to the biggest mystery of the age. Now, against all odds, that chance had arrived. He would not let it slip through his fingers. "I'll need the best and brightest, sir. The most capable ships and crews we can muster. This is no ordinary mission. We're talking about centuries-old technology. Who knows what kind of condition those vessels will be in?" "Consider it done." The commander turned to his console, fingers flying across the holo interface. "I'm already dispatching recall orders. Your fleet will be assembled within the week." Steelheart allowed himself a thin smile. "Then let's not waste any time. The Lost Fleet has waited long enough to come home." ******. Within days, the news had spread through the ranks of the fleet, electric with excitement and no small measure of trepidation. The Lost Fleet, found at last, after so many years. What had happened to them, out there in the dark void beyond the edge of known space? Had they met some terrible fate, their frozen ships drifting for eternity? Or had they accomplished their original mission, only to be stranded, unable to make the perilous journey back? Captain Emily Ironheart, one of the most decorated officers in the fleet, felt a mixture of emotions as she prepared her ship for the historic voyage. Pride at the chance to be part of the recovery effort. Determination to uncover the truth and bring her long-lost comrades home. But also a creeping sense of unease. What exactly were they heading into? As Ironheart oversaw the final pre-launch checks, her second-in-command, Commander Michael Hawke, approached with a datapad. "Captain, the latest intel from Fleet Command. They've managed to piece together some additional details from the scout ship's transmission." Ironheart scanned the report, her brow furrowing. "The ships are intact, frozen in time." Hawke nodded grimly. "That's what the scout claims. Whatever happened, it seems the Lost Fleet never suffered any catastrophic damage. Their systems are still operational, somehow. Remarkable." Ironheart's fingers tightened around the datapad. "Any clues as to their fate?" "Nothing concrete yet." Hawke hesitated. "But the scout did mention something disturbing. According to their readings, there were signs of a recent alien presence in the area." Ironheart's eyes widened. "Alien presence? You mean?" "We don't know for certain." Hawke raised a hand. But the fleet commander wants us to be prepared for the possibility that the Lost Fleet's disappearance was no accident. That they may have encountered an advanced alien civilization out there with unknown intentions. A chill ran down Ironheart's spine. For centuries, humanity had dreamed of making first contact, of unlocking the secrets of the cosmos. But what if that first meeting had gone horribly wrong? What if the Lost Fleet had stumbled into a confrontation with an alien race far beyond their capabilities to comprehend, let alone resist? Steeling herself, Ironheart handed the datapad back to Hawk. Then we'll have to be ready for anything. We owe it to our lost comrades to uncover the truth, no matter what we find out there. Hawk nodded solemnly. Aye, Captain. The entire fleet is counting on us. With a final glance at the bustling hangar, Ironheart turned and strode up the ramp of her ship, her heart filled with a renewed sense of purpose. The Lost Fleet was out there, waiting to be found, and she would stop at nothing to bring them home. The journey to the Tartarus Nebula was long and arduous, pushing the fleet's advanced engines to their limits. With each passing day, the tension aboard the ships mounted as the crew drew closer to the unknown. What would they find in the heart of that mysterious, shrouded region of space? Admiral Steelheart pored over the latest reports, his weathered features etched with concentration. The scout ship's readings had been disturbing. Traces of alien technology, residual energy signatures indicating a recent presence. Whatever had happened to the Lost Fleet, it was clear they had encountered something beyond the boundaries of human experience. Sir, we're nearing the coordinates, Commander Hawk reported, stepping into Steelheart's quarters. ETA is approximately 1 standard hour. Steelheart nodded, setting down the datapad. Assemble the senior staff. I want everyone briefed and ready for whatever we find out there. Within the hour, the fleet emerged from the swirling cosmic dust of the Tartarus Nebula, their sensors sweeping the void. And there, barely visible in the distance, lay the ghostly silhouettes of the Lost Fleet, vast, sleek vessels drifting serenely, untouched by the ravages of time. By the gods, Ironheart murmured, staring in awe at the sight. Her crew shared her stunned disbelief, murmurs of wonder and trepidation rippling through the bridge. Steelheart's expression remained grim. Bring us in, Captain. Maintain maximum alert. I want all systems primed and ready for anything. Ironheart's fingers flew across her console, relaying the orders. As the recovery fleet closed the distance, the scale of the Lost Fleet became truly apparent. Massive dreadnoughts, their hulls gleaming with exotic alloys, flanked by sleek cruisers and nimble frigates, a testament to humanity's engineering prowess centuries ago. Scans are picking up faint power signatures, one of the bridge officers reported. Systems are active, but running at minimal levels. Life support appears to be functional across all vessels. Steelheart's brow furrowed. Survivors? Unknown, sir. Sensors can't penetrate the ship's hulls with any reliability. We'll need to send boarding parties to get a closer look. Ironheart glanced at Steelheart. Permission to lead the first away team, Admiral. Steelheart considered for a moment, then nodded. Granted, take your best people and get us some answers. But be careful, Emily. We don't know what we're walking into. As Ironheart assembled her team and prepared for the dangerous mission, a sense of dread crept up her spine. What would they find aboard those silent, frozen ships? The crew of the Lost Fleet had vanished without a trace centuries ago. Were there any still alive, somehow preserved in the void of space? And if so, what had become of them? Steeling her nerves, Ironheart led the away team toward the nearest dreadnought, its vast scale dwarfing their small shuttle. As they drew closer, the team scanned the ship's exterior, searching for an airlock or breach they could use to board. There, one of the officers called out, pointing to a faint glow along the hull. Looks like a service hatch. It's our best bet. Ironheart nodded. Let's hope it's still functional. Maintain caution, everyone. We don't know what, or who, we might find in there. With a hiss of escaping air, the hatch cycled open, and the team cautiously made their way inside. The dim emergency lighting cast eerie shadows across the stark, utilitarian corridors, the air cold and still. Ironheart's breath caught in her throat as they passed row after row of cryogenic chambers, their occupants suspended in a timeless slumber. "My God," one of the officers murmured. "They're still alive." Ironheart felt a surge of both hope and dread. The crew of the Lost Fleet, frozen in time, awaiting rescue after centuries adrift in the void. But what had become of them? What horrors had they faced? What impossible challenges had they overcome to still be clinging to life? As the team pressed deeper into the vessel, they encountered more signs of activity. Dimly glowing consoles, the hum of life support systems struggling to maintain functionality. It was as if the ship had been abandoned in the midst of some critical operation, frozen in time before the crew could complete their mission. Ironheart paused at a junction, her gaze sweeping the corridor. "Spread out and search for any logs, any clues as to what happened here. We need to find out where the rest of the crew is, and what drove them to this." A faint noise, barely audible, made her freeze. Somewhere in the distance, the sound of movement, a stirring, a presence. Ironheart's hand fell to the sidearm at her hip, her senses on high alert. "We're not alone," she whispered, her eyes narrowing as she scanned the shadows. "Stay sharp, everyone. I've got a bad feeling about this." Ironheart's heart pounded in her chest as she and her team advanced cautiously down the dimly lit corridor, weapons at the ready. The faint sound of movement they had heard had vanished, leaving an unsettling silence in its wake. "Spread out and search for any signs of life," Ironheart whispered into her calm. "But stay alert. I don't like the feel of this place." As the team fanned out, their boots echoing on the metal deck plates, Ironheart's gaze swept the shadowy alcoves and junctions. The eerie glow of the emergency lighting cast dancing shadows, distorting her perception. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Suddenly, a faint clattering sound from up ahead made Ironheart stiffen. She raised a hand, signaling her team to halt. Slowly, she advanced, her weapon raised, heart pounding. "Who's there?" she called out, her voice echoing in the stillness. "This is Captain Emily Ironheart of the United Fleet. Identify yourself." For a long, tense moment, there was no response. Then, a flicker of movement in the darkness, and a figure emerged, stumbling into the weak light. Ironheart felt her breath catch in her throat. The man before her was emaciated, his uniform tattered and stained. But his eyes, sunken, haunted, yet alight with disbelief and hope, were unmistakably human. "Captain," he rasped, his voice barely above a whisper. You came for us." Ironheart holstered her weapon, rushing to the man's side as he swayed unsteadily. Easy, easy. We're here to bring you home." "What happened? Where are the rest of your crew?" The man shook his head weakly. "So many. Lost. We tried to make it back, but the damage, the system's failures." His eyes glistened with unused tears. "We couldn't go on. Had to put the others in stasis. Try to preserve what was left." Ironheart's heart sank as the grim realization set in. The crew of the Lost Fleet, frozen in time, their ships adrift and crippled. How many had perished, unable to complete their desperate journey back to known space? "Where are the others?" she pressed gently. "We need to find them, get them back to our ships. Can you lead us to them?" The man nodded weakly. I'll try. But be careful. There are things out there, watching, waiting." Ironheart frowned, glancing back at her team. "Things? What do you mean?" Before the man could respond, a bone-chilling howl echoed through the corridor, freezing the blood in her veins. Ironheart whirled, weapon raised, as a towering skeletal figure emerged from the shadows, its glowing eyes fixed on them with predatory intent. "Open fire," she roared, her team unleashing a hail of energy bolts at the advancing alien monstrosity. But their weapons seemed to have little effect. the creature's unnaturally resilient form shrugging off the impacts. "Fall back," Ironheart shouted, dragging the weakened crewmen with her as the team retreated. "Get to the airlock now." As they fled, Ironheart caught a glimpse of more of the alien creatures closing in from the side passages, their unearthly shrieks filling the air. What were these things, and how had they come to infest the Lost Fleet's vessels? The team burst back into the airlock, Ironheart slamming the controls to seal a hatch behind them. The creature's clawed hands scrabbled at the thick metal, but the door held firm. Ironheart turned to the crewman, gripping his shoulders. What the hell were those things? What happened out here? The man's sunken eyes were haunted, his voice barely a whisper. "Demons from beyond the rim. They found us, cut us off. We never stood a chance." Ironheart felt a chill run down her spine. Demons from beyond the rim. Could it be true? Had the Lost Fleet stumbled into an encounter with an alien menace so terrifying, so utterly alien, that it had doomed them all? Swallowing hard, she keyed her comm. "Admiral Steelheart, this is Ironheart. We found survivors, but we've also encountered something else. Something inhuman. We need to get these people to safety. And then," she paused, her gaze hardening, "and then we need to go back and finish what they started." Steelheart's response was grim. "Understood, Captain. Return to the fleet immediately. We'll regroup and then mount a full-scale assault. Whatever happened out there, we'll uncover the truth, and we'll make those bastards pay." Ironheart nodded, helping the weakened crewmen onto the shuttle. As they pulled away from the dreadnought, she spared one last glance at the silent, foreboding vessels, a testament to humanity's greatness, now infested by some unholy horror from the depths of the unknown. "Hold on, my friends," she whispered. "We're coming for you." The briefing room aboard Admiral Steelheart's flagship was tense with anticipation as Captain Ironheart recounted the harrowing events on the dreadnought. Her exhausted crew, gathered around the table, listened in grim silence as she described the encounter with the mysterious inhuman creatures. They weren't just some predatory species, Ironheart concluded, her brow furrowed with concern. "The survivor we rescued, he called them demons from beyond the rim. Something so alien and terrifying, it drove the crew of the Lost Fleet to the brink of destruction." Steelheart's weathered face was etched with a mix of determination and unease. "And you believe these demons are still out there, infesting the rest of the fleet?" Ironheart nodded grimly. "Yes, sir. The survivor said they were cut off, unable to complete their journey home. Whatever these creatures are, they've overrun the Lost Fleet's vessels. If we don't act soon, they could be lost forever." The other officers exchanged worried glances, the weight of the situation settling heavily upon them. For centuries, humanity had dreamed of making contact with other intelligent life in the cosmos. But to encounter something so utterly alien, so seemingly malevolent, it shook them to the core. "Admiral, we have to go back." Ironheart's voice was steady, her gaze unwavering. "We have to find out what happened to the rest of the crew. And stop those _things from spreading any further." Steelheart held up a hand. "I understand your urgency, Captain, but we need to be cautious. Whatever we're dealing with, it's clearly beyond anything we've encountered before. We'll need to prepare thoroughly, gather as much intel as we can, before we mount a full-scale assault. Sir, with respect, the longer we wait, the more likely it is that we'll lose them all." Ironheart leaned forward, her eyes intense. "You saw the state of that survivor. They're running out of time. We have to act now, while there's still a chance." Steelheart studied her for a long moment, then sighed. "Very well. But I want you to take a team of our best and brightest, people who can help us understand what we're up against. We'll need to know the enemy's capabilities, their weaknesses, if we have any hope of succeeding." Ironheart nodded, relief flooding her features. "Understood, Admiral. I'll handpick the team and have them prepped and ready to go within the hour." As Ironheart departed, Steelheart's gaze lingered on the holomap of the Tartarus Nebula, the Lost Fleet's position blinking ominously. "Gods help us all," he murmured. "What horrors have they uncovered out there?" ******. The second journey to the Lost Fleet's coordinates was marked by a somber, tense silence. Ironheart's hand-picked team, experts in fields ranging from xenobiology to advanced systems engineering, kept a vigilant watch as their shuttle approached the drifting vessels. "Scans are picking up no change in the ship's status," one of the technicians reported. "Life support still functional, but systems are running at minimal levels. No sign of external activity." Ironheart nodded, her jaw set. "Maintain caution. If those creatures are still out there, they could be laying in wait." As the shuttle docked with the Dreadnought's airlock, the team quickly made their way inside, weapons at the ready. Ironheart led them down the same eerie, shadowy corridors, the faint hum of life support systems, the only sound to break the unsettling silence. "Fan out and search for any signs of the crew, or those alien creatures," Ironheart ordered. "Be alert for any traps or ambushes. We can't afford to be caught off guard again." The team spread out, their boots echoing on the metal deck plates as they poured over every inch of the ship. Ironheart's heart pounded in her chest, the memory of the skeletal, glowing-eyed thing she had encountered still fresh in her mind. Suddenly, a series of muffled thumps from a nearby compartment made Ironheart stiffen. She raised a hand, signaling her team to halt, and cautiously approached the hatch, her weapon raised. "Who's in there?" she called out, her voice steady. "This is Captain Ironheart of the United Fleet. Identify yourself." For a long moment, there was no response. Then, a faint voice, barely audible, drifted through the hatch. "Help." Ironheart's eyes widened, and she quickly keyed the control panel. The hatch slid open, revealing a cramped storage room, and a small group of huddled figures, their eyes sunken and hollow, their once pristine uniforms tattered and stained. "By the gods," Ironheart breathed, rushing to their side. "You're alive. Where are the others? What happened here?" One of the survivors, a woman whose face was etched with a haunted, weary resignation, looked up at Ironheart with eyes that had seen too much. "The demons," she whispered, her voice cracking. "They came for us, tore us apart, one by one. We were all that's left." Ironheart felt a chill run down her spine, her worst fears confirmed. These people, survivors of the Lost Fleet, had endured unimaginable horrors, and she knew with a sinking certainty that their ordeal was far from over. Captain Ironheart's heart sank as she listened to the harrowing tale of the Lost Fleet survivors. Their once proud vessels, reduced to crumbling fortresses, infested by some inhuman, predatory horror that had systematically hunted them down. They came from the darkness, with no warning. The woman, whose name Ironheart had learned was Lieutenant Amara Trell, recounted in a hollow voice. One by one, the ship started going dark, their crews vanishing without a trace. We could hear their screams echoing through the corridors. Ironheart clenched her jaw, her knuckles white, as she gripped the edge of the table. "How did you manage to survive?" Trell's hollow gaze met Ironheart's, a glimmer of desperate defiance flickering in her eyes. "We hid, barricaded ourselves in wherever we could, praying that those _things_ wouldn't find us. Most of us weren't so lucky." Ironheart reached across the table, resting her hand on Trell's trembling one. "You're safe now. We're going to put an end to this, I promise you." Trell shook her head wearily. "You don't understand. These demons, they're not like anything we've ever encountered. They're _unnatural Captain. Unstoppable." Ironheart's brow furrowed. "Then tell me what we're up against. What are their strengths, their weaknesses? The more we know, the better chance we have of defeating them." Trell's gaze shifted to the holomap of the Lost Fleet's position, now dotted with ominous red markers. They're drawn to the power signatures of our ships, our technology. Once they detect us, they converge, hunting in packs. Their claws can tear through even the thickest armor, and their jaws. She shuddered. They're tough, fast, and relentless. We tried everything. Weapons, traps, sabotage, but nothing could stop them for long. Ironheart nodded grimly. All right. And their weaknesses? Fire, Trell said simply. The only thing that seems to drive them back, at least temporarily. But they learn, they adapt. It won't be enough on its own. Then we'll have to get creative. Ironheart straightened, her expression hardening. I'll brief the fleet. We're going to hit them with everything we've got. Firepower, tactics, the element of surprise. We may not be able to wipe them out, but will carve a path through to the rest of the crew. I won't leave a single one of our people behind. Trell's eyes widened, a flicker of hope igniting within them. You really think you can do it? Ironheart's gaze was unwavering. I don't think, Lieutenant. We can. She turned to the rest of the team, her voice ringing with conviction. All right, people, listen up. We've got a lot of work to do. Let's get back to the fleet and start planning our counterattack. ****. The mood aboard the fleet was one of grim determination as the senior officers pored over the intel gathered by Ironheart's team. The scope of the threat they now faced was sobering. An unknown, seemingly unstoppable alien species that had cut off and decimated the lost fleet, leaving only a handful of traumatized survivors. We have to assume the worst, Steelheart said, his weathered features etched with concern. If these demons have overrun the rest of the fleet, then the chances of finding anyone else alive are slim. Ironheart's jaw tightened. I won't accept that, sir. We have to at least try. Steelheart nodded slowly. I know. That's why we're going to hit them with everything we've got. He gestured to the holomap, a series of battle plans flickering to life. We'll use the element of surprise, draw them in with false signals, and lure them into a kill zone. Once we've softened them up, the main fleet will push in and secure the lost fleet's vessels. And the firepower? Ironheart asked. Incendiary rounds, plasma charges, anything that can generate enough heat to drive them back. Steelheart's expression hardened. We're not taking any chances this time. If these creatures are as resilient as the survivors claim, then we'll need to overwhelm them with sheer force. Ironheart nodded, her mind racing as she studied the battle plans. Understood, sir. I'll personally lead the boarding teams, coordinate the assault from the front lines. Steelheart held up a hand. No, Emily. You're too valuable to risk on the ground. I need you here, directing the fleet's movements. You'll be our eyes and ears, our strategic linchpin. Ironheart opened her mouth to protest, but Steelheart silenced her with a look. This is non-negotiable, Captain. You're the only one who truly understands what we're up against. I need you where you can do the most good. Reluctantly, Ironheart nodded. Aye, sir. I'll coordinate the assault from the command deck. As the officers dispersed to make the final preparations, Ironheart gazed out the viewport, her expression resolute. Hold on, my friends. We're coming for you. Whatever it takes. The mood aboard the fleet was tense as the ships approached the eerie silhouettes of the lost fleet, their hulls dark and foreboding. Captain Ironheart stood on the bridge of Admiral Steelheart's flagship, her gaze fixed on the holomap, her mind racing with the weight of the mission. All ships reporting readiness, Captain, her executive officer. Commander Hawk, reported. Weapons systems primed, boarding party standing by. Ironheart nodded, her jaw set. Excellent work, Michael. Transmit the attack plan to all ships. On my mark, we move in. Hawk hesitated, his brow furrowed. Captain, are you sure about this? We're outmatched, outgunned. Those _things could tear us apart. Ironheart turned to him, her eyes reflecting a steely determination. We have no choice, Commander. Those are our people out there. Our friends, our comrades. We can't abandon them, not when there's still a chance. Hawk held her gaze for a long moment, then sighed and nodded. Aye, Captain. I'm with you, all the way. Ironheart placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. I know. Now let's go bring them home. With a deep breath, Ironheart turned back to the holomap, her fingers dancing across the controls. All ships, this is Captain Ironheart. On my mark. Execute the attack plan. Remember, our priority is to clear a path to the Lost Fleet's vessels, not engage the enemy directly unless necessary. Steelheart will lead the main assault, while my team secures the boarding teams. Ready. Mark. The fleet burst into action, their powerful engines propelling them forward as they unleashed a barrage of incendiary shells and plasma charges towards the darkened ships. Ironheart watched tensely as the holomap tracked the volley, her heart pounding in her chest. Divert power to forward shields. Maximum intensity. She ordered, her eyes narrowing as the first wave of the demonic creatures emerged from the shadows, their unearthly howls echoing across the void. The fleet's weapons tore into the alien swarm, the intense heat and explosive force driving the creatures back, but they quickly regrouped, surging forward in greater numbers. Ironheart gritted her teeth, her knuckles white. They're adapting, just like the survivor said. We need to hit them harder. Steelheart's voice crackled over the comm. Understood, Captain. Weapons free, all ships. Show these bastards the true power of humanity. The fleet unleashed a devastating barrage, their firepower converging on the drifting vessels of the Lost Fleet. Ironheart watched with bated breath as the boarding teams broke through the demon-infested corridors, battling their way towards the cryogenic chambers where the survivors lay in stasis. I got movement, Captain. One of the bridge officers suddenly called out. Massive energy signatures emerging from the outer edge of the nebula. Enemy reinforcements, incoming fast. Ironheart's eyes widened as the holomap painted a chilling picture. Hundreds, no, thousands of the demonic creatures, converging on their position from all sides. She felt a chill run down her spine. This was no longer a simple rescue mission. It was a fight for survival. All ships, brace for impact. She roared, her voice cutting through the chaos. Divert all available power to shields and weapons. We can't let them break through. The fleet reeled as the alien swarm crashed into their lines, their massive, clawed forms swarming over the hulls of the ships. Ironheart watched in horror as the boarding teams were cut off, their communications dissolving into static. We've lost contact with the ground teams, Hawk reported, his face pale. They're being overwhelmed. Ironheart cursed under her breath, her mind racing. They had to break through, no matter the cost. She reached for the comm, her voice steady despite the mounting desperation. Admiral Steelheart, do you copy? We're taking heavy losses here. The demons are swarming us, and the boarding teams are cut off. We need to pull back, regroup. Static crackled in response, and for a heart-stopping moment, Ironheart feared the worst. Then, Steelheart's gruff voice broke through. Negative, Captain. We can't retreat now, not when we're so close. The fleet will hold the line. You and your team need to get to those cryogenic chambers. _now_. We'll buy you as much time as we can. Ironheart's eyes widened. But, sir, that's an order, Captain. Steelheart snapped. Go, and may the gods be with you. Steelheart out. Ironheart stared at the comm, her heart pounding. She knew what Steelheart was asking her to do, a suicide mission, with the slim chance of rescuing the lost crew of the fleet. But she also knew that it was their only hope. Steeling her nerves, she turned to Hawk, her expression resolute. You have the bridge, Commander. I'm leading the final assault team. Hawk's eyes widened. Captain, you can't be serious. You won't stand a chance out there. Ironheart gripped his shoulder, her gaze unwavering. I have to try, Michael, for them. She gestured to the holomap, the blinking markers representing the lost fleet. I won't leave them behind. Not again. With a final nod, she turned and strode towards the hangar, her steps quick and determined. As she suited up, donning her heavy combat armor, she couldn't help but feel a sense of both dread and purpose. This was it, the final push. For the lost fleet, and for humanity. "Hold on, my friends," she whispered. "I'm coming." The deafening roar of weapons fire and the unearthly screeches of the demonic creatures filled the air as Captain Ironheart and her team of elite soldiers fought their way through the ravaged corridors of the Lost Fleet's dreadnought. Ironheart's boots pounded against the metal deck plates, her weapon blazing a path through the swarming, skeletal forms that lunged at them from the shadows. The air was thick with the acrid stench of ozone and charred flesh, a testament to the ferocity of the battle. "Keep moving," she barked, her voice barely audible over the chaos. "We have to reach the cryogenic chambers before they overwhelm us." Her team responded with grim determination, their specialized incendiary rounds and plasma charges carving a fiery path through the demonic horde. But for every creature they felled, two more seemed to take its place, their glowing eyes fixed on the intruders with a primal, unstoppable hunger. "Captain, we're losing ground," one of the officers shouted, his voice tinged with panic. "These things just keep coming." Ironheart gritted her teeth, her mind racing. They were so close, just a few decks away from where the survivors lay frozen in stasis. But at this rate, they wouldn't make it. The demons were simply too numerous, too relentless. Suddenly, a deafening explosion rocked the corridor, sending the creatures reeling. Ironheart whirled, her eyes widening as she caught sight of the Valiant, one of the fleet's most powerful dreadnoughts, its guns blazing as it charged into the fray. "Admiral Steelheart," she breathed, relief and renewed determination coursing through her. "Hold the line, my friend. We're almost there." With the Valiant providing cover fire, Ironheart's team surged forward, cutting down the demons with renewed ferocity. The creatures were clearly unused to such concentrated firepower, their frenzied attacks becoming more erratic and disorganized. "There," one of the soldiers shouted, pointing ahead. "The cryogenic chambers, just up ahead." Ironheart felt a surge of hope, her pace quickening. "All right, listen up. Secure the area, establish a perimeter. I'm going in to find the survivors." As her team fanned out, Ironheart dashed towards the massive sealed compartments, her eyes scanning the rows of motionless figures. With trembling hands, she cycled open the first hatch, and a wave of cold air rushed out. There, suspended in the eerie, glowing liquid, lay the weathered face of a man she recognized, Captain Nathaniel Keyes, one of the Lost Fleet's most decorated commanders. Ironheart swallowed hard, her throat tight with emotion. "Hold on, Nathaniel," she whispered, keying her comm. "I found the captain's cryogenic chamber. Prep the med bay. We're going to need full trauma teams standing by." One by one, she cycled open the other chambers, her heart swelling with a mixture of relief and anguish as she recognized the frozen features of the long-lost crew. These were her friends, her comrades who had faced unimaginable horrors and somehow survived. But as she moved deeper into the compartment, a new wave of dread washed over her. The chambers nearest the rear of the room lay shattered, their occupants long since gone. And beyond them, a sight that made her blood run cold. Ironheart's breath caught in her throat as she beheld the towering, skeletal form of one of the demonic creatures, its glowing eyes fixed upon her with undisguised malice. Slowly, it began to advance, its clawed limbs scraping against the deck plates. "No," Ironheart breathed, her grip tightening on her weapon. "I won't let you take them. Not again." Raising her weapon, she unleashed a barrage of searing plasma bolts, the intense heat washing over the creature's unnaturally resilient form. But to her horror, it continued to press forward, unfazed by the onslaught. Suddenly, a deafening roar echoed through the chamber, and Ironheart watched in awe as a massive, hulking figure emerged from the shadows, one of the Valiant's heavily armored assault troopers, its weapons blazing. The demon recoiled, its eerie howls piercing the air as the trooper advanced, unleashing a devastating barrage of incendiary fire. Ironheart seized the opportunity, dodging past the creature and reaching the last of the cryogenic chambers. With a silent prayer, she cycled open the hatch. And there, to her immense relief, lay the battered but familiar form of Lieutenant Trell, her features twisted in a pained expression even in stasis. "Hold on, Amara," Ironheart whispered, keying her calm once more. "I've got the last survivor. Get the _Valiant_medical team in here now." As the troopers continued to battle the demon, keeping it at bay, Ironheart watched over the rescued crew, her heart swelling with a renewed sense of purpose. They had come so far, faced such unimaginable horrors, but they had survived, against all odds. Now, it was time to finish the fight. The air was thick with the acrid stench of ozone and the agonized howls of the demonic creatures as Captain Ironheart and the _Valiant's_assault team battled to secure the cryogenic chamber. Ironheart gripped her weapon tightly. Her eyes narrowed as she watched the massive skeletal form of the alien monstrosity reel under the intense barrage of incendiary fire. "Keep it pinned down," she shouted, her voice hoarse. "We can't let it near the survivors." The troopers responded with practiced efficiency, their weapons unleashing a relentless hail of searing plasma and explosive rounds. The demon thrashed and recoiled, its unearthly cries echoing through the chamber, but it refused to be driven back. Ironheart's jaw tightened as she watched the creature's unnatural resilience on full display. Whatever these demons were, they were far beyond anything humanity had ever encountered. Conventional weapons seemed to barely slow them down, let alone stop them. Suddenly, a deafening thunderclap split the air, and Ironheart felt the deck plates shudder beneath her feet. She whirled to see a massive figure emerging from the shadows, one of the _Valiant's_primary plasma cannons, its barrel glowing white-hot. "All units, clear the area," the cannon operator's voice boomed over the comm. "Firing main gun, immediate danger zone." Ironheart and her team dove for cover as the plasma cannon unleashed a searing burst of concentrated energy, the blinding flare washing over the demon. The creature let out an unearthly, agonized shriek as the intense heat seared its flesh, and Ironheart watched in stunned disbelief as it began to disintegrate, its skeletal form crumbling into smoldering ash. As the echoes of the cannon blast faded, the chamber fell silent, save for the ragged breathing of Ironheart's exhausted squad. She rose shakily to her feet, her gaze fixed on the pile of blackened remains. "By the gods," she breathed, a mixture of awe and horrified realization washing over her. "That's what it takes to put these things down." Turning, she hurried to the cryogenic chambers, her heart pounding. The survivors had been secured, but she couldn't rest. Not yet. Not until the rest of the lost fleet was safe and the demon threat neutralized for good. Steelheart's gruff voice crackled over the comm. "Ironheart, report. What's your status?" Ironheart took a deep breath, steadying her nerves. "The last of the survivors are secure, sir, but—" She paused, glancing back at the smoldering remains of the demon. "These creatures, they're unlike anything we've ever faced. Our weapons barely slow them down. We're going to need the full fleet's firepower to take them all out." There was a tense silence, then Steelheart responded, his voice grim. "Understood, Captain. All ships, prepare to converge on the lost fleet's position. We finish this, _now_." Ironheart felt a surge of renewed determination. "Aye, sir. We'll be ready." The battle that followed was a brutal, relentless affair, as the full might of the United Fleet unleashed its devastating arsenal against the swarming demonic horde. Plasma cannons roared, incendiary missiles streaked through the void, and the very fabric of the Tartarus Nebula seemed to tremble under the weight of the assault. Ironheart watched from the command deck of the _Valiant_, her eyes narrowed with focus as she coordinated the fleet's movements. The demons fought with a primal, unstoppable fury, their numbers seemingly endless as they threw themselves against the human defenses. But humanity was not to be so easily cowed. Steelheart's veteran crews fought with iron determination, adapting their tactics and firepower to counter the alien menace at every turn. Wave after wave of the demonic creatures were consumed by the relentless barrage, their unearthly howls silenced one by one. As the battle raged on, Ironheart felt a deep, abiding pride swell within her. This was the true strength of humanity, not just in the raw power of their technology and weapons, but in the indomitable spirit of those who wielded them. These were the descendants of the brave crew who had faced down the horrors of the unknown and survived, against all odds. And now, they would not be broken, not by these demons from beyond the rim, nor by any other challenge that the cosmos might throw their way. With a final, earth-shattering explosion, the last of the demonic horde disintegrated, consumed by the overwhelming firepower of the United Fleet. Ironheart let out a shaky breath, a tired smile crossing her lips. "It's over," she murmured, placing a hand on the holo-table. "We did it, my friends. We brought you home." In the days that followed, the rescued crew of the Lost Fleet were hailed as heroes, their story of survival and triumph against the alien menace spreading like wildfire through the colonies. Steelheart and Ironheart were awarded the highest honors, their names etched into the annals of human history alongside the legends of old. But for Ironheart, the true reward was seeing the faces of her long-lost comrades, once frozen in time, now alive and reunited with their families. As she watched them embrace, their eyes shining with tears of joy and gratitude, she knew that this was a victory for all of humanity, a testament to the indomitable spirit that had carried them through the darkest of times and would continue to guide them towards a future among the stars.